We are coming to you live. Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype. Each one of you is welcomed. Intellect, the stepping stone. Generally, intellect is considered as an obstacle in the journey towards self-realization or inward journey. Intellect is accumulation of knowledge. Therefore, all training and sharpening of intellect too is considered just an obstacle. And it is considered as useless. Then the question arises why children should not be introduced into meditation directly without imparting them any training in the ways of intellect. Indeed, meditation is the missing link in education and human life as well. We spend nearly 25 to 27 years of our life, precious years of our life, in various university institutions. When we come out of the institutions, we are given honors, degrees, credentials, and we are told that you are ready to plunder into the world ahead of you. Have you answered a question? Have you pondered for a moment? After you come out of the university, after spending 27 years, precious years of your life, are you ready to answer the simple questions that life asks you on a day-to-day basis? Simple questions that life asks you on a day-to-day basis. How you should interact with another individual. University never teaches that. How you should love the other person. And simple questions. I'm talking about very, very simple questions. Often it is argued, why not introduce children to meditation while they are still innocent and simple, instead of sending them to university, instead of shaping their logic and thinking faculty, instead of educating them? Why not drown them, introduce them to meditation in their innocence and simplicity? It will be far better. It would have been all right if intellect was only an obstacle. But you remember, something that is an obstacle can become a stepping stone. You are walking along the pathway and there is a huge rock lying in your way. Now it is an obstacle. No one can deny it. You cannot continue to drive your vehicle because it is in the middle. No one can deny that it is not an obstacle. You may return thinking the pathway does not go any further. Maybe that rock indicates the end of the pathway, the end of the road. Certainly there is a way forward. And the way forward is, if you climb the rock, a new pathway is revealed to you. A new pathway is revealed to you. And certainly this will be totally a different level from the previous lower one. A new dimension opens up. University education, your entire education refers to outer dimension, and meditation relates to inner dimension. Meditation relates to inner dimension. Two, the outer and the inner are equally relevant for a balanced development. The skin, the outer covering of a fruit, is as important as the inner kernels. Both, one protects the other, and under the protection of the outer skin, the inner continues to grow. Both are relevant. The unintelligent one will return from there thinking that rock to be an obstacle and that's the end of the pathway. However, the intelligent one will use the rock as a ladder and step over the stone to reach to the other side. And then, if he is using his own vehicle up to the point where the rock was standing as an obstacle, he will stay there, leave his car parked there, go on the other side, take another vehicle, reach to the destination where he has to go, and after finishing all that he has to do, he will return to the same spot where he has hopped into a taxi, a cab, and he will cross over the rock to reach to the other end and take his vehicle to return home. The unintelligent one will return from there thinking the rock to be an obstacle. However, the intelligent one will use the rock as a ladder and step over the stone to reach to the other side and continue the journey. And intelligence or the wisdom is of a totally different kind of thing than intellect. Without training the intellect, the children will remain like animals. You must train the children in intellect, in the ways of intellect. It is not that they will become wise, not that they become like Buddhas, like Buddha, Mahavir, Krishna, Christ, Lao Tse, or anything else, but they will remain like wild animals. Of course, they would not have the obstacle, but they certainly would not have the means to climb up either. In itself, neither is the stone an obstacle nor the ladder a help. You have to remember this. Neither the stone is an obstacle nor the ladder a help. You can learn to use the stone as a stepping stone or the ladder to climb. But this has to be developed. So it is necessary that every child goes through the proper intellectual training, and the more beautiful and the sharp this training is, it will nullify the stronger, bigger, and vaster rocks of intellect. And then it will be better, because in the same proportion, it is a means to rise to greater heights. The one who gets crushed under the rock is a priest, the dull-witted. One who stands on top of the rock is a mystic, because he knows how to use the ladder, how to use a stone as a stepping stone. And the one who is out of fear does not even come close to the rock is the ignorant one. Out of fear, he does not want to come close, even close to the rock. The intellect of an ignorant one was never trained. The intellect of an ignorant one was never trained. The priest's intellect was trained, but he could not go beyond the boundaries of the known, the scriptures. It teaches only the known. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, there is a particular sutra which is very important. Sutra of chapter 4, verse 8. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam sambhavami yuge yuge. For the destruction of the wicked, for the protection of the sage, I rise from age to age. This is the meaning is given. The surface meaning. But have you wondered the deeper meaning? Who is a sage? Who is a mystic? The one who is ordained in his institution? One who puts on the saffron garb or has a particular mannerism? Is he a sage? Is he a saint? In Christianity, the sainthood is ordained. In many other traditions, the Swamihood, the sainthood is ordained, and you are pronounced as Swami, as sage. But Krishna is not speaking of that. Sage is the one whose intellect is awakened, who is reached to the beyond life, beyond death. One who is beyond death, he is not afraid of death. Does he need protection? An awakened one, an enlightened one, does not need protection. And protection from who? Enlightenment means it is an awakening that there is no difference between you and I. You are composed of the same component that I am composed of. I am composed of. During British rule, there was a Swami. He has taken a vow not to speak. Taken a vow not to speak. And he was passing through an area where there was a curfew. And the rule of the curfew is, if you are breaking the rules of the curfew, the person who is in charge, he has the right, he has the command to shoot at point blank if you do not respond. So he was asked, what is your name? But he had taken a vow not to speak. So he did not respond. And it happened that 3 times you were asked a question, and when you do not respond, you are shot at point blank. So he was shot at point blank. At the time of his death, he said, Shwet Ketu, you are that I am. So awakened one means one who has experienced oneness with each one of us. You are connected to me by an invisible bond. Without you, I mean nothing. Everything there is a synergistic harmony. There is a power within that knows beyond our knowings. We are not aliens nor as strangers join. We are bound to each other by a causeless force. Bound to each other by a causeless force. You can call it Omkar. You can call it by any name, it matters not. But we are bound to each other by a causeless force. Then, where is the question of fear? Where is the question of protection? So is Krishna speaking of those awakened ones that they need protection? Certainly not. Krishna is not meaning those awakened ones, the enlightened one. Buddha does not need protection. Osho underwent so much of torture, and the jailers were confused when he responded that I am as good as I was. And he said, I have never come across a person like this who says prison is as good as anything else. This is the quality of an awakened one. And such an awakened one does not require any protection from anyone. Who needs a protection? The false sage who is ordained, who is appearing in front of you in the particular garb. No garb is important. The garb does not define you. It is your awareness that defines you. Just as the lamp is known by its light, the light that reflects out of that is its introduction. So too, the words that emerge out of your innerness define you, not your face, not your garb. Nothing of the outer defines you. It is the word that emerges out of you. Is it soaked in your harmony and bliss, or is it arising out of disturbance, chaos within? So Krishna is not speaking of those false sages. He said, whenever there is falsehood is on the rise, I rise from age to age. And for the destruction of the wicked, how can wicked be destroyed? And with the destruction of the wicked, the wickedness will destroy. Wickedness is an energy. An energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. If one has capacity to transform the innerness of an individual, the wickedness will vanish. And when it reaches to the point that the wickedness, the pot is full, the only thing is this: death is the only way to bring about transformation. The body has become weak. It cannot sustain itself. It cannot sustain the transformed consciousness of an individual. Then he has to assume a new body, new form, so that the journey up to now, life was a certain pattern. It is changing, and it has to require a new format, because this particular form has become dilapidated. It is ready to fall any moment. When you see a house, the builder looks at it. He said, this house cannot be refurbished. This wall is too weak to take on, to continue to accept any kind of refurbishing on it. You cannot do it. Its foundation is very weak. We have to demolish it and build it differently, much stronger, so it can stay for another 20, 30 years. This structure is dilapidated. So those people, those structures have to be demolished. The surface meaning of the scriptures everyone knows, but the inner meaning And when Krishna spoke, there was only one meaning of it, one message. And that message is relevant. We can go on interpreting it in our own way. So many people go on interpreting Holy Quran, but do they reach to the meaning that Holy Prophet meant in that particular sentence, particular statement? Intellect of an ignorant one was never trained. The priest's intellect was trained, but he could not go beyond the boundaries of the known, the scriptures. The wise one's intellect was not only trained, but he also managed to go beyond the intellect, beyond the known. All research takes place when you go beyond the known. All those who have invented something, the scientists, when they go beyond the known, only there they have made the discoveries. Certainly one has to go through it first, and then one day discard it to go beyond that. And whatsoever experience one goes through in the process certainly intensifies one and also makes one luminous. Buddha and Krishna are extraordinary intelligent ones. Holy Prophet was uneducated, yet his intelligence was extraordinary. Just think about it. An uneducated man like Muhammad gave Quran to the world, which has stirred and impressed nearly 1/3 of humanity. 1/3 of humanity, and it still remains unintelligible even to these scholars with all their wisdom and university educations. The message of Krishna, he was not trained in the way that he never went to any university. All he did is spend time in the company of his master, Sandipni. And today, the words of Quran are still code of life for Muslims. The man may have been illiterate, but the sharpness of his intelligence was unique and beyond human comprehension, and known dimensions of consciousness, known dimensions of understanding. The codes he created are still effective, and millions of hearts are thrilled and inspired by them. And the kind of system he provided in Holy Quran is neither available in Bible, nor in Upanishads, nor in Gita. In a sense, it is a multi-dimensional book. It is not only a religion, instead it is a social science as well. And not only a social science, but a political science as well. Holy Prophet tried to discipline life in a complete way from all dimensions. This is the beauty. That's why I call it a multi-dimensional work. From the trivia of life to the vastness of an awakened one, the ultimate reality, he encompassed all in the Quran. This is why the Islamic religion, for Islamic religion, one scripture alone, the Quran, is sufficient. And this is also that is why Muslims also proclaim that God is one, and there is only one messenger of God. One messenger is enough. He gave only one thing. This man must have been very intelligent, and no one can doubt his intelligence. Certainly no one can doubt his intelligence. He was uneducated, but being uneducated has nothing to do with having or not having intelligence. Certainly. We see educated ones and find them without intelligence. Your so-called education has nothing to do with intelligence. It is an inborn quality. Intelligence is inborn quality. It is the process of squeezing the essence out of the experience. Remember that. Intelligence is the process of squeezing the essence, the juice out of life experiences. Out of life experiences. I therefore emphasize the intellect of the child will have to be trained. His logic has to be sharpened so that it becomes like a sword. It can cut anything unwanted. And then whether he will cut himself or with the sword to commit suicide or save someone's life, it all depends on his intelligence. Intellect has to be trained. Then how the intellect has to be used, it depends on your intelligence. Two work together, the intellect and intelligence. Intellect has to be trained, and intelligence then comes to help. How the intellect, logic has to be used. Intellect need to be trained while intelligence is your inborn quality. Logic is just a means. It can be used either way for destroying life, then it is destructive. For creating life, then it is creative. But one thing is certain, if you keep children deprived of intellect, you cannot make them intelligent. You cannot make them intelligent. They would be innocent like animals, but they would not be meditative like a sage, like an awakened one. There have been many examples. Many a times it happened that a child has been taken away to the forest by some wolf or any animal. Incidents reveal when two girls were found in the forest near Calcutta in India. Furthermore, another child has been brought up by the wolves and was found in the forest near the city of Lucknow. The child was quite grown up. Physically, he must have been nearly 14 years of age. This child had never received any formal human education. He had never known any school or any human company. He was taken away by the wolves while he was still an infant in his cradle. So he grew up with the wolves. He was unable to even stand up on his own 2 feet, because that too, to walk on the 2 feet, to stand on 2 feet, to walk on the 2 feet requires a training. It requires a training. Never ever think that you are standing on your 2 feet just on your own. You have been taught to stand up on 2 feet. It was only after proper training you learn to stand up on 2 feet, and then you learn to make the first steps and then started walking. Human body is designed to walk on all fours. No child walks on the 2 feet after his birth. He walks on the 4 naturally, and this you call creeping. To walk on the 2 feet requires a learning process. If you ask scientists and psychologists, they say a very strange thing. They say that human body can never be healthy like that of an animal, because human body is meant to walk on 4 legs, all fours, and he has messed up everything. He is walking on 2 feet. This disturbs the whole system, the gravitational force. It is like a motor vehicle which is not designed to climb up the mountain. In the process of climbing the mountain, the gravitational laws are disturbed. When you walk on the ground on all fours, you are balanced. Your body is parallel to the gravitational force of the earth. and the body is parallel to the gravitational force, there is equal amount of gravitational force on your spine and the legs, and there is no problem. But when you stand up on your two legs, everything is disturbed. Your spine is horizontal. Your spine is vertical to the gravitational force. Blood has to flow in the opposite direction, upward. The lungs have to work unnecessarily. All the time there is a struggle with the gravitational force. The earth is pulling downwards and your blood has to go upward. So if a man dies of heart failure, there is no wonder in it. No animal dies of heart failure. The heart weakens. Heart weakness cannot develop in animals, and it cannot be avoided in human beings. The heart weakness, failure, cannot develop in animals, and it cannot be avoided in men. It is a miracle if it does not happen to some men. Otherwise, in general, it is bound to happen, because all this, the reverse pumping of the blood is being done continuously, which is a must. But nature has not designed things that way. But we call it evolution. When the man started walking, the first man, the apes started walking on the 2 feet. So the boy could not walk on the 2 feet. He only used to run on all fours, and his running was not like that of a human being, it was like that of a wolf. Also, he used to eat raw meat like wolves. He was very powerful. Even 8 strong men would find it difficult to hold and tie him down, and he was almost a wolf. He may bite, snatch off the portion of the flesh. He was simply furious. He was simply furious. He had not become a meditative saint. He had become instead a wild animal. And similar incidents have happened in the West as well. Children that were brought up in the forest by animals, their life was like animals. Then efforts were made to train this boy. For 6 months, all kind of massages and electric treatments were given, and he could barely be made to stand up on 2 feet, and just a little lapse and he would go back on his fours. Without training, it is very difficult to stand up on 2 feet. You have no idea of fun standing on all fours. In the absence, you are standing on 2 and suffering. It is a great exercise. If you learn, at least if you walk on all fours, be on all fours, at least once a day for a few minutes, use it as a meditation. You go on your all fours, either on the bed or on the ground. It is much easier to remain on the bed and be on all fours. It is a great healing process. I do it sometimes, and more precisely every day. I will go on my all fours, and in that state, connect to you all. The boy was given a name, and all the people who were training him got tired of him teaching, and he could not learn or utter. Before dying, was a simple word that he spoke was Ram. He just could tell his name. Within 1.5 years of intense training, he died. The scientists who were studying the boy say he died because of all this training. Because he was nothing more than a child of some wild animal. This shows how much of a child's life we may simply be killing by sending them to school. We kill their joyousness, we kill their wildness. That is the whole trouble in the schools. A class of 30 children, those 30 wild animals, we hand over to one teacher. In his hands has fallen the task of making them civilized. Making them civilized. This is why there is no other profession more boring than the profession of a teacher, the profession of teaching. There is no other human being more distressed than a teacher. Their job is really difficult one. But these children will have to be educated, otherwise they will not be able to become human beings. Innocent they will be, but that innocence will be more that of ignorance. A man who is innocent because of not knowing, but when he becomes innocent after knowing, then he becomes the flower of life. A Buddha is innocent in his knowing. A Christ is innocent in his knowing. Training of intellect is necessary, then transcendence of intellect is necessary. Now, and how will you lose what you don't even have? If you want to experience a consciousness like that of a Krishna, then you have to look for an intellect like that of a Krishna. Because you can enjoy leaving only that which you have. How can you experience the peace Einstein will experience? By dropping his intellect. That peace will be incomparable, because that will be the peace after the storm. Your storm has not come as yet, and you want peace. The taste one feels in throwing the intellect aside after much intellectual gymnastics is like the taste of a pure wealth one feels after recovering from some sickness. Renunciation is a great bliss in the same sense that the indulgence preceding it was a great misery. Pass through the misery of intellect so that you can attain to the bliss of wisdom. Pass through the misery of intellect so that you can attain to the bliss of wisdom. Pass through the anguish of the world, and so that samadhi, the ultimate ecstasy, awakening into divine, can be yours. Pass through the anguish of the world so that samadhi, the ultimate ecstasy, awakening into divine, can be yours. You will have to pass through the opposite. That is the only way to reach to that which is. You have to pass through the opposite to reach to that which is. And then you have attained to transcendence beyond duality. You have attained to transcendence beyond duality. That is the only way. So until tomorrow, take care and do have a pleasant day.